Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving right into some official government plans today to break down a huge change. It's all about how Japan, one of the most disaster-prone countries on Earth, is getting ready for the absolute worst-case scenario. So the big question on everyone's mind is always this. Is Japan really ready for the next big one? Well, today we're looking at a major shift in the country's national strategy that tries to answer that question. With threats like a major Nankai Trough earthquake constantly looming on the horizon, the government is making its biggest change in decades. They're basically tearing up the old playbook and starting fresh. All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the core problem Japan is facing. Then, the new command structure they're building. After that, we'll follow the money and check out the budget and key projects. And finally, we'll talk about what all of this means for you and how you can prepare. Okay, first up, let's really dig into the why. Why was this huge change so badly needed in the first place? You see, for years, the old approach was what's known as tatewari, or vertical silos. Just imagine different government ministries all working on their own separate disaster plans. It was super fragmented, and that created some really dangerous gaps and slowdowns when a crisis actually hit. And this right here is a perfect picture of that chaos. You've got all these different ministries doing their own thing, getting support, but not really coordinating with each other. It's like having a bunch of different people all trying to drive the same car at once. The result? A tangled mess and delays, right when you need a clear, fast response. So to fix that problem, the government is building something new from the ground up. A single, powerful command tower. And it's called the Bosaicho, or the Disaster Management Agency. Now, this isn't just some new committee. No way. It's a full-on, cabinet-level organization. Think of it as the nation's new command tower for any disaster, and it answers directly to the Prime Minister. That's a big deal. And they are moving fast. The plan is to get the founding laws passed in early 2026 and have the whole agency officially launched by the end of that same year. They're also setting up regional offices in high-risk areas to make sure that expertise is right where it needs to be on the ground. So what's the most important thing to know about this new agency? It has actual teeth. It's designed to finally break down those old ministry silos. We're talking about centralized command, from before a disaster even hits all the way through the recovery. It'll have a dedicated minister with the power to give binding recommendations to other parts of the government. And they're beefing up the staff by over 100 people to make it all happen. Okay, so a new command tower, more power, it all sounds great, right? But a plan is just a piece of paper without the money to make it real. So let's look at the budget and the key initiatives to see if they're putting their money where their mouth is. And oh boy, are they. The budget for disaster management is getting a massive boost. We're seeing a jump from about 146 billion yen under the old system to 202 billion yen for the new Bosaicho. That's almost a 40% increase. You don't do that unless you are absolutely serious. And this gives us a fantastic look at where all that money is going. It's a bit detailed, but the main idea is clear. You can see how the funding flows from the central command, kind of like gears turning, out into all these different areas. You've got big chunks of money going to strengthen the command functions themselves, but also dedicated funds for supporting evacuees and, really importantly, investing in new technology. It's not just throwing money at the problem, it's a very strategic plan. And when we break down the top investment areas, the priorities really pop. A huge 35 billion yen is going into the core command functions, which makes total sense. But what's really interesting is the 11 billion yen for digital disaster prevention, or DX. That's all about modernizing everything, from information systems to the tech that first responders use out in the field. And this funding is going to some pretty amazing new initiatives. We're talking about high-tech stuff, like advanced R&D with weather radar and drones. But it's also about people. There's a new grant for local governments, better evacuation simulations based on risk analysis, and even training programs for a new generation of disaster leaders, with a specific focus on including more women. Okay, so that's the big national picture. But how does all of this trickle down to communities, to businesses, and maybe even to you? Well, it's all about getting support to the people on the ground. For local governments, this is a huge deal. They can now get a subsidy that covers half the cost of a disaster prep project, up to 10 million yen. This means towns and cities can create plans that are actually tailored to their specific risks, instead of using some generic one-size-fits-all approach. And that money translates into real, tangible things that make a difference.
We're talking about stuff like mobile kitchen cars to make sure evacuees get warm meals, or even large inflatable tents to serve as better, more comfortable emergency shelters.
And this isn't just for the government. There's a huge push to get private businesses prepared, too. As one group puts it, for companies with tight budgets, subsidies and grants are invaluable. And that's exactly what's happening. Businesses can now get subsidies for all sorts of things. They can get help creating their business continuity plans, buying essential gear like generators or communication systems, stockpiling food and water, and even doing seismic retrofitting on their buildings. So, what's the bottom line here? The goal is a whole-of-society approach to resilience. Japan is shifting away from that old, fragmented system. The new goal is a unified, proactive strategy that brings everyone in, from the top levels of government right down to the smallest local businesses. This new agency is a massive step forward for national resilience, but all this top-down planning really just highlights a simple truth. The most effective disaster response also has to build from the ground up. The government is getting its plan together, so the final question is, what's yours?